In the early 1500s, the world was a map with vast, empty spaces. Spices like cloves and nutmeg were more valuable than gold, and the only known route to the Spice Islands in the east was controlled by Portugal, a treacherous journey around Africa. But one man, a disgraced Portuguese nobleman named Ferdinand Magellan, had a radical, almost insane idea. He believed he could reach the east by sailing west, through a mysterious, undiscovered passage in the New World. Everyone thought he was mad. The Spanish court, his last hope for funding, was deeply skeptical. They saw a desperate man, not a visionary. Yet, with nothing but his unshakable conviction, Magellan convinced the young King Charles I of Spain to back his audacious voyage. He was given 5 old ships and a crew of 270 men, a motley collection of sailors, soldiers, and adventurers from all over Europe. Many were ex-convicts, promised a pardon if they survived. They had no idea they were about to embark on the most important and deadliest voyage in human history. On September 20th, 1519, the fleet set sail from Spain. The mood was electric, a mix of hope and deep-seated fear. The Atlantic crossing was brutal. Storms battered their small wooden ships, tossing them like toys on monstrous waves. Food rotted, fresh water turned green with slime, and the crew, already suspicious of their foreign captain, began to whisper of mutiny. Magellan was a stern and unyielding commander. He had to be. He knew that a single moment of weakness could doom the entire expedition. After months at sea, they finally reached the coast of what is now Brazil. They sailed south, probing every inlet, every bay, desperately searching for the rumored Streitel Passeter passage to the other side of the world. Weeks turned into months. The weather grew colder, the days shorter. The vast, desolate coastline of Patagonia seemed endless. Despair began to set in. The crew's morale hit rock bottom. 3 of Magellan's Spanish captains, who had resented him from the start, saw their chance. They seized control of 3 of the 5 ships, cornering Magellan in a remote, frozen bay. It was a full-blown mutiny. Magellan's situation was hopeless. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped thousands of miles from home. But Magellan wasn't just a dreamer. He was a ruthless strategist. In a daring move, he sent a small boat to one of the mutinous ships under the guise of negotiation. As the rebel captain read Magellan's letter, a loyal sailor lunged forward, stabbing him fatally. In the ensuing chaos, Magellan's men stormed the ship. Another rebel ship, trying to escape, ran aground. The leader of the 3rd mutinous vessel surrendered. The mutiny was crushed. Magellan's justice was swift and brutal. One captain was executed and quartered. Another was marooned, left to die on the desolate Patagonian shore. The message was clear. There was no turning back. With his authority restored, the search continued. Finally, on October 21st, 1520, after more than a year of searching, they spotted it. A narrow, treacherous waterway twisting through the icy mountains. This was it, the strait that would later bear his name. For 38 days, they navigated the labyrinthine channel, battling ferocious winds, unpredictable currents, and near-freezing temperatures. One ship, sent to scout ahead, deserted and fled back to Spain, taking most of the remaining provisions. But Magellan pushed on. On November 28th, they emerged from the strait and saw it a vast, seemingly endless expanse of blue water. After the violent storms of the Atlantic, it seemed so peaceful that Magellan named it the Mar Pacifico, the peaceful sea. They thought the worst was over. They were wrong. The nightmare had just begun. They expected the Spice Islands to be just a few weeks' sail away. They had no concept of the sheer size of the Pacific Ocean. Weeks turned into months. They sailed for 99 days without seeing land. The last of their food rotted. They ate sawdust mixed with rat droppings. They chewed on leather straps from the ship's rigging, which they had to soften by dragging them in the sea for days. Their gums swelled and bled. Their teeth fell out. Scurvy was ravaging the crew. Men went mad from hunger and thirst, dying in agony every single day. Their bodies were unceremoniously dropped into the vast, indifferent ocean they had so hopefully named peaceful. It was a floating graveyard, a slow, torturous descent into hell. Magellan, watching his men perish, must have wondered if he had led them all to their deaths, chasing a ghost across an ocean that had no end. Just as the last glimmer of hope was fading, they spotted land. It was Guam. The starving crew, barely able to stand, staggered ashore. But their relief was short-lived. The local Chamorro people, who had never seen Europeans before, came aboard and began taking everything that wasn't nailed down. Operating under a different concept of ownership, a fight broke out. Magellan, enraged, led a raid on their village, burning it to the ground. After restocking, they sailed on, finally reaching the Philippines on March 16, 1521. Here Magellan found people who could understand his Malay interpreter. He had done it. He had reached the east by sailing west. He befriended a local ruler, Raja Humaban of Cebu, and in a fit of religious fervor convinced him and his people to convert to Christianity. This alliance would be his fatal mistake. To prove the power of his god and the strength of his Spanish allies, Magellan agreed to help Humaban subdue a rival chieftain, Lapu-Lapu, on the nearby island of Mactan. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Magellan was supremely overconfident. He took only 60 men, telling his new allies to stay back and watch how European warriors fought. He expected Lapu-Lapu's men to flee in terror at the sound of their guns. But Lapu-Lapu was a fierce leader with over 1,000 warriors waiting. They were not intimidated. Magellan's men waded ashore in shallow water, their heavy armor weighing them down. The boats with the cannons couldn't get close enough to provide cover. They were met with a furious onslaught of spears and arrows. Magellan was hit by a poisoned arrow in the leg and a spear in the arm. He fought on bravely, but he was quickly overwhelmed. His men, seeing their captain fall, panicked and retreated, leaving his body behind. Ferdinand Magellan, the man who had mastered the globe, died on a random beach, defeated by a local chieftain he had grossly underestimated. He never made it to the Spice Islands. He never completed his circumnavigation. His death shattered the expedition. The remaining crew, now leaderless and vulnerable, were betrayed by their former ally, Raja Humabon. Many were massacred at a feast. The survivors were forced to flee, abandoning one of their 3 remaining ships. The 2 ships, the Trinidad and the Victoria, finally reached the Spice Islands, loaded up with precious cloves, and then faced a final, impossible choice. The Trinidad tried to sail back across the Pacific, but was captured by the Portuguese. The Victoria, commanded by one Sebastian Elcano, decided to risk the unthinkable, to continue sailing west, all the way around Africa, through enemy Portuguese waters, to get back to Spain. It was a desperate gamble. They dodged Portuguese patrols, battled more storms, and lost even more men to starvation. 3 years after they had left, on September 6, 1522, a single battered ship, the Victoria, limped into a Spanish harbor. Of the 270 men who had set out, only 18 skeletal figures remained. They had done the impossible. They had sailed around the world. But here is the twist you've been waiting for. We remember Magellan as the first to circumnavigate the globe. But he died halfway through. The credit for completing the voyage belongs to Elcano and his 17 survivors. But was Magellan even the first to almost do it? Years before this famous voyage, Magellan had traveled east with the Portuguese, reaching as far as the Spice Islands. His final voyage took him west to the Philippines. So, while he never completed a single, continuous trip, he had, over the course of his life, covered the full longitude of the Earth. But there is an even more intriguing figure in this story. Magellan's personal slave and interpreter, Enrique of Malacca. Magellan acquired him in Malacca during his earlier eastern voyages. Enrique was with Magellan in the Philippines and was able to converse with the locals. This means Enrique, a man whose story is almost entirely lost to history, was likely a native of that very region. He had traveled west from his home to Europe and then sailed west again all the way back. So, when the expedition reached the Philippines, Enrique was the first person in history to have actually, truly, circled the entire planet and returned to his homeland. The first person to circumnavigate the globe wasn't the famed European explorer, but his forgotten slave. It's a powerful reminder that history is often written by the victors, and the most incredible stories sometimes belong to those who were never given a voice. Thanks for watching.